It was one of those afternoons where the sun hung heavy in the sky, making the heat ripple above the pavement. Jamal was walking home from his part-time shift at the grocery store, his sneakers worn thin, his backpack carrying nothing but a notebook and a few coins from his tips. The air smelled faintly of gasoline from the nearby station, and the street was unusually quiet, except for the sharp, metallic pop that broke the silence. He turned his head and saw a sleek black luxury car parked awkwardly on the shoulder, its hazard lights blinking. The kind of car that didn't belong in his neighborhood. Next to it stood a tall man in an expensive suit, his forehead creased in frustration, holding a phone to his ear. Even from a distance, Jamal could tell, this man didn't look like someone who changed his own tires. Jamal hesitated. People told him to mind his business, especially when it came to folks who looked like they didn't trust people who looked like him. But something inside him nudged him forward. He'd grown up watching his grandfather fix cars in their driveway, and the flat tire wasn't rocket science. He figured he could at least offer. He approached slowly, careful not to seem like he was sneaking up. "Hey, sir, looks like you got a flat. Need a hand?" he asked, voice steady but polite. The man turned sharply, eyes narrowing for just a second before smoothing his expression. Jamal had seen that look before, the quick flash of suspicion. The pause, the calculation, but then the man nodded, sighing. "Yeah, I've been waiting on roadside assistance for 30 minutes. They keep saying they're on the way. I can change it for you," Jamal said, setting his backpack down. "Won't take me more than 10 minutes. The man hesitated, glancing at Jamal's scuffed shoes, the frayed strap on his bag, then at the tire. "You know how to do that?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Jamal said. "My granddad taught me. We've fixed worse." There was another pause. Jamal could almost hear the man's thoughts, wondering if this kid was trustworthy, if this was some kind of setup. Finally, he gave a slow nod. "All right, the tools are in the trunk." Jamal got to work. He loosened the lug nuts with practiced ease, feeling the man's eyes on him the entire time. Cars slowed down as they passed, some drivers staring. One woman actually rolled down her window and shouted, "Hey, you better watch your stuff, sir." The man stiffened but didn't respond. Jamal kept his head down, jaw tightening, focusing on the task. "People always gotta assume the worst," Jamal muttered under his breath, not sure if the man heard. The man said nothing, just watched. When Jamal lifted the flat tire off and replaced it with the spare, he noticed the man's suit jacket shifting, revealing a gold watch that probably cost more than Jamal's family car. The guy was clearly loaded. By the time Jamal was done, sweat had soaked through his shirt. He tightened the last lug nut and stood up, brushing off his hands. "All set," he said. "You should still get it checked at a shop, but this'll get you where you need to go." The man looked at him for a long moment. "How much do I owe you?" he asked, reaching for his wallet. Jamal shook his head. "Nothing, just glad I could help." The man's eyebrows rose slightly, as if that answer surprised him. "Most people wouldn't have stopped," he said. Jamal gave a small shrug. "Most people aren't my granddad. He used to say, you help people because it's the right thing to do, not because you expect something back." The man smiled faintly for the first time, but it didn't last. A police cruiser slowed down as it passed, then abruptly pulled over. Two officers stepped out, one of them walking briskly toward Jamal. "Sir, step away from the vehicle," the officer barked. Jamal blinked, confused. "I was just, step away from the vehicle," the officer repeated, hand hovering near his holster. The man in the suit frowned. "It's fine, officer. He was helping me. We got a call about a possible theft in progress," the officer interrupted. "Sir, do you know this young man?" The question hung in the air. Jamal's heart pounded. He'd been here before, in situations where the wrong word could change everything. His mouth felt dry. He looked at the man in the suit, silently begging him to say the right thing. The man's eyes flickered, hesitation, just for a second. And in that second, Jamal felt a pit form in his stomach. Was he about to get thrown under the bus by the very person he'd just helped? The officer took a step closer. "Sir," the man drew in a breath, his gaze locked on Jamal's. What he said next would decide whether Jamal walked home, or got cuffed on the side of the road. And that was when everything changed. The man in the suit didn't look away from Jamal. For a moment, it was as if time slowed. The blare of distant traffic, the low hum of the police cruiser's engine, the faint metallic clink of the officer's belt. Jamal's stomach twisted. He'd seen this movie before. The part where the rich man hesitates, decides it's easier to let the cops handle it, and walks away without a second thought. But then the man spoke. Yes, he said firmly, his voice carrying enough authority to make the officer pause. I know him. He's not stealing anything. He fixed my tire because my roadside assistance never showed. The officer narrowed his eyes. Sir, you're sure about that? The man's tone sharpened. Positive. Now, unless helping a stranger is a crime in this city, I'd like to get on with my day. The second officer shifted uncomfortably, glancing between them. Jamal's hands were still trembling, but the man's unwavering stare kept him rooted in place. Finally, with a short nod, the first officer muttered something under his breath and walked back to the cruiser. The other followed, and the flashing lights disappeared down the street. Jamal let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Thanks, he said quietly. The man studied him for a long moment. Does that happen to you often? Jamal gave a small, humorless laugh. Let's just say, if I got $1 every time someone thought I was up to no good, I'd be driving one of these too. The man's jaw tightened. He glanced toward his car, then back at Jamal. What's your name? Jamal. Well, Jamal, the man said, I think we need to talk. Can I buy you lunch? Jamal hesitated. His shift money wasn't going to stretch far this week, and lunch with a stranger, especially one dressed like he was, felt risky. But something about the man's tone wasn't just polite, it was purposeful. Sure, Jamal said finally. They drove to a quiet corner of an upscale restaurant where Jamal felt every eye turned toward him as they walked in. The man didn't seem to notice, or maybe he did, but didn't care. They sat down, menus appearing in their hands before Jamal even got his bearings. Order whatever you want, the man said. Jamal glanced at the prices and almost choked. Maybe just a burger. The man smirked faintly. All right, a burger it is. When the waiter left, the man leaned forward. You handled yourself well back there. Not everyone could keep calm in that situation. Jamal shrugged. If I didn't, it could have gone bad fast. The man nodded slowly. My name's Richard Langston. The name meant nothing to Jamal, but Richard said it like it should. I run Langston Automotive, dealerships, repair chains, the works. We do business all over the state. Jamal blinked. Oh, so, like, you're the boss. Richard chuckled. Something like that. And I've been looking for someone like you. Jamal raised an eyebrow. Someone like me? Richard nodded. Someone who doesn't walk away when it's inconvenient. Someone who helps without expecting anything back. That's rare. Too rare. Jamal didn't quite know what to say. He was used to people noticing his mistakes, not his kindness. Richard went on. I'll be honest. When you first walked up, I made assumptions. I hate to admit it, but I hesitated because of them. Seeing those officers treat you the way they did, it hit me hard. It reminded me how blind we can be to our own prejudice. And I don't want to be that man. Jamal looked down at his hands. People don't usually say that out loud. Maybe more people should, Richard replied. Which is why I'm making you an offer. If you're willing, I'll pay for you to go through our mechanic training program. It's paid, and when you're done, you'll have a full-time position at any of my locations. Jamal's eyes widened. Wait, you're serious? Dead serious, Richard said. Talent and work ethic like yours shouldn't go to waste because of how the world sees you. Jamal felt a lump forming in his throat. For so long, it felt like the system was a wall he couldn't climb. And now, here was a stranger, someone from the other side of that wall, handing him a ladder. Why me? Jamal finally asked. Richard's gaze didn't waver. Because you reminded me of something I forgot, that humanity doesn't come with a price tag, and it sure as hell doesn't come in one color. They shook hands, and for the first time that day, Jamal felt like the sun above wasn't just beating down, it was shining. Months later, Jamal would stand in the same suit Richard wore that day, working side by side with other mechanics, his name stitched proudly on his uniform.